my gosh, this is so boring. Ooh. Okay. Christine? Hey! Christine, what are we gonna do? We have this APUSH project for the Marshall Court, and I don't have any idea of what we're going to do. Like, how can we make this more interesting? I don't know what to do. Christine? Thanks anyway. Okay. Well, maybe I'll take a nap too. Maybe I'll come up with an idea. In 1795, the state of Georgia issued a grant of 5 million acres of land to numerous land companies and private speculators. Good deal, good deal. Good deal. The Yazoo land purchase, as it was known, was found to be fraudulent because the land companies and speculators had bribed the Georgia legislature to sell the land.
Hey there, that land in Georgia you have looks mighty fine.
Thank you, I reckon so. Georgia's among the finest across the whole entire U.S. You know, nowhere in the world do the birds sing clear and the sky seem bluer.
Well, that's all mighty fine, but what's the point of having all that land to yourself?
Sorry, but that land ain't for sale. It belongs to the state government, fellas.
Maybe it can offer you a little incentive.
I can't. Oh, all right. Sounds like a deal.
All right.
One of the speculators, James Gunn, sold a portion of his land to John Peck of Massachusetts in the 1800s.
Hey there, you got a lot of land. You think that I could buy some of it?
You're just in time. I actually have 15,000 acres of land that would suit you perfectly.
Well, that sounds great. This should cover it.
How much is that? 5? That's a lot of money. Here's my land grant for it.
Well, thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.
3 years later.
Well, hey there, sir. You look like a man in need of land.
Why, yes, I am in need of land. But where in the world will I find any land as good as this Georgia country right here?
Well, you're in luck. I've been looking for someone to sell my land to.
Excellent!
After a few hours of negotiating, John Peck sold 15,000 acres of land to Robert Fletcher of New Hampshire in 1803.
Oh, wowza! Thank you for selling me this land. This is truly a great deal.
Yes, it is. Georgia is a truly wonderful place to be.
Public outcry at the bribery-ridden land grant led the Georgian legislature to revoke the land grant of 1796.
Yeah! This is despicable! The Yazoo land grant was a bribe! You Georgia legislators should be ashamed of yourselves!
Exactly. You had no right to sell that Yazoo land to them private speculators. That's 35 million acres of fraud. What do you have to say for yourselves?
Oh dear, we've been caught! Dear people of Georgia, we admit that we did wrong. As your public servants and your chosen legislators, we realize that we have committed a great wrong in betraying your trust and succumbing to your bribery. We are ashamed and beg for your forgiveness.
You can beg for forgiveness all you want, but if you don't do anything to fix what you have done wrong, then that is just not good enough. That will not cut it.
Exactly. Words mean nothing if actions don't follow.
Well, it seems like there's only one thing we can do. Fellow citizens, your Georgia legislatures have come to a decision. We hereby grant that the 1795 Yazoo land grant will be null and void. It was a grant brought with bribery. We hope that you will look past this instance of our poor judgment on our part and look forward with all of our futures together as Georgia itself. Yay!
Huzzah!
Yay, Georgia!
A few years after Fletcher purchased his land.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Hey, boy, what you doing on my land?
Well, the truth is, sir, this ain't your land no more.
What? I bought this land back in 1803. Bought it from a man named Peck. Said it was perfectly legal.
Well, in 1796, the Georgia legislature took back the land grant.
What? What is the meaning of this?
Well, sir, the public found out it was motivated by bribery and forced them to take it back. Now that it's all over for the Georgia legislature.
Let me see that. How dare Peck sell me illegal land? I made my home here. Peck will pay for this in court.
Fletcher sued Peck to regain the money he had paid to Peck for the land that was taken back by the government in 1796. The case of Fletcher v. Peck eventually made it to the Supreme Court in 1810.
Order in the court. Please be seated. Alrighty, let's see what we have here. Today in the Supreme Court, it says we have a case of Robert Fletcher versus John Peck. The prosecutor Fletcher has sued the defendant Peck because of a sale of a legal land deed. Mr. Fletcher, state your case, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. It all began back in 1803 when I was a young man in search of land to build my home on. I happened to be in Georgia doing business when I stumbled upon a beautiful expanse of land. As I stood there surveying it, a man walked up to me and said that the land was his and that he was looking for someone to buy a portion of it.
Mr. Fletcher, can you point out the aforementioned man who sold you this land?
That's him.
Thank you. Continue, please, Mr. Fletcher.
The man, Mr. Peck, talked to me about selling his land. After a few hours of negotiating, he sold me 15,000 acres of land from the original Yazoo land grant. A few years later, I was sitting on my land, enjoying the twilight, when a newsboy informed me that the land was no longer mine. I couldn't believe it. According to the newsboy, the 1795 Yazoo land grant had been rescinded by a bill passed by the Georgia legislature in 1796. I was furious. Peck sold me land that wasn't his to sell.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Peck?
Well, with all due respect, Mr. Fletcher, I am a victim of the 1796 bill, too. You see, I bought my land from a man named James Gunn back in 1800, so I had no idea that the land I sold you belonged to the Georgia government. Therefore, I am not entitled to give you any of my money.
Thank you, Mr. Peck. After listening to both of you, the justices and I have come to a decision. Even though the original Yazoo land grant was sold fraudulently, it was a binding contract. According to the contract clause of the Constitution, contracts cannot be annulled. Therefore, the bill passed in 1796 that rescinded the earlier Yazoo grant is unconstitutional because it breaks a binding contract. Mr. Fletcher, I rule that the deed to the land you bought still stands. Mr. Peck, you are under no obligation to reimburse Mr. Fletcher. Case adjourned.
Case significance. Fletcher v. Peck was the first case in which a federal court declared a statute issued by a state government unconstitutional. Constitutional law was forever altered in that the contracts provision of the Constitution could now be applied to property laws, specifically to private property. Federal courts were then able to use the contracts law to declare state laws unconstitutional. Oh my gosh, that's perfect! I know exactly what to do for our Marshall Court project. I've got to call Christine!